In 2009, unusually powerful flares are happening in the Sun's atmosphere. This is noticed by Dr. Helmsley, who travels to India to discuss things with astrophysicist Satnam. Together, they visit a copper mine, where they use an elevator that takes them 11,000 feet underground. In the mine's lab, Satnam shows Helmsley that the current solar flares are the biggest in history and are causing the Earth's core to heat up, which he proves by opening a tank full of boiling groundwater. Fearing a global catastrophe, Helmsley rushes back to the USA to interrupt an important gala and reports the issue to Anheuser, the head of the presidential administration. 6 months later, in 2010, US President Wilson tells the G8 summit about the upcoming end of the world. The information doesn't reach the general public, but the most powerful people in the world start making plans. In the Tibetan Valley, they start building large ark ships for the elite chosen ones, but they tell the locals that they're building a dam. They relocate anyone that can't work, and only people with certain skills are allowed to stay. In 2011, the ark tickets are being sold to the elite for €1 billion each. In 2012, the general public still doesn't know the truth, but newscasts begin talking about the Mayan calendar and how many people believe the end of the world is coming, to the point where they're self-deleting in groups. Cracks are appearing on the streets of California, but nobody takes them seriously, blaming them on a mini-quake. At the harbor, the passengers of a cruise are alarmed when the ship sinks a bit in the water. Later in the evening, Laura is called by the director of the Louvre, who informs her they've been lied to about the reason they moved the art and that he'll appear at a press conference to tell everyone the truth. Before he can say more, his car suddenly blows up and kills him. In the White House, Helmsley and Anheuser inform Wilson that their calculations were wrong and that the end of the world is coming faster than they expected. They're interrupted by Laura, who wants to know why the organization she works for is a sham. Wilson has no choice but to tell her the truth. Meanwhile, Jackson takes his kids on a family trip to Yellowstone. They're surprised to see a bunch of helicopters flying by and that the lake area has been fenced, but they ignore the warning signs and just climb over it. While a weird man called Charlie secretly watches them from the forest, the military arrives and takes the family away to their base. Helmsley tells Jackson that they're geologists investigating what happened to the lake and that the area is unstable, so Jackson should take the kids away. After the family leaves, Helmsley calls Satnam, who informs him he had to seal off the mine and he's been receiving similar data from other countries. The Earth's crust has begun destabilizing, so evacuation must get started. Jackson and his children go to a camping area only to be cornered by Charlie, who wants to know what the scientists say and laughs at the answer as if he knew it was a lie. In the evening, Jackson notices Charlie is broadcasting from his van and listens to his radio show, during which he talks about the upcoming apocalypse. Jackson decides to approach Charlie for more details, and Charlie shows him a silly animation about the Mayan prophecy. When Jackson stays skeptical that such a big secret could be kept, Charlie explains that anyone who tried telling the public the truth died. Which he proves with a bunch of newspaper articles. Jackson notices that a professor he used to work with died 2 months ago, and Charlie says that this professor sent him a map with the location of government spaceships. The next morning, the earthquakes in California get worse, and a huge crack in the ground causes a supermarket to split in two. Thankfully, nobody gets hurt, but Jackson's ex-wife Kate calls him to ask him to bring the kids home immediately. In the meantime, Anheuser informs Wilson that only 4 arcs were finished, meaning it won't be possible to save enough people. In a meeting with the heads of all states, Helmsley shares a report and explains they only have 2 or 3 days left, so Wilson announces they're starting an evacuation plan. A Russian oligarch called Karpov. He's secretly preparing for the evacuation, so he orders Jackson to bring his twin sons to the airport. One of the boys tells Jackson that he'll die soon while he gets to escape on a big ship right before another mini-quake hits the area. Thinking Charlie may have been right after all, Jackson rents a plane and rushes back to pick up his family. At that moment, a more powerful earthquake hits California, and this time houses begin crumbling down. Jackson arrives just in time to pick up his kids, Kate, and her new boyfriend Gordon. As houses collapse all around them, the streets also begin breaking down, so Jackson has to drive like crazy to avoid falling into a pit. Soon, other people try to escape too, and the streets get crowded, causing Jackson to drive through front yards and trees until the car jumps off a ground platform. Downtown, bridges and skyscrapers are breaking down too, causing thousands of deaths. After a lot of driving, the group finally makes it to the airport, only to discover the pilot is dead. Gordon has taken a few flying lessons but has no experience, so he nervously tries his best and manages to fly the family off right before the airport is destroyed too. Soon, most of Los Angeles has gone down, and the sea is starting to cover all the cities on the coast. Jackson drives the van all the way to the mountain to find Charlie, only to watch tons of birds fly by and the hills start to sink down. While Jackson goes away in the van, Charlie stays to keep on broadcasting as a volcano erupts and blows up the area. Volcanic rocks begin raining down, killing Charlie and hitting the back of the van. Thankfully, Jackson drives fast enough to jump over a crack in the ground and reaches the airport just in time. He still needs to find the map in the van, though, taking so long that the ground keeps on cracking and the van falls. Thinking Jackson's dead, Gordon prepares the plane to take off, but suddenly Jackson climbs out of the van at the last second and runs to grab Kate's hand. Once he's safe, the plane finally takes off and leaves the area before they're reached by the eruption.